This actually ended up being one of my favorite episodes. It was absolutely hilarious. It kind of proved that Relaxatox, God, that's such a hard name to say tonight, it was all for show. Because Alaska decided to succeed from that union to make herself better known. Now, I know she got a lot of criticism by the judges and the other contestants because she was like, oh, I know nobody wants to go first, so you know what, I'll go first. I actually thought it was a good choice because the first person to go at a roast is kind of like the host, and she did a great job. Did an excellent job. She's funny. Everything was on point. The problem with Alaska was that she looked the same as she's looked several times in the past. So, I can see where some of the criticism was valid. But overall, she was very, very, very funny. If I were her, using strategy, I know she likes Roxy and I know she likes Detox. But she's wanting to separate herself, and she knew that they were struggling in this competition for this challenge. I probably would have put one of those two first. Because I think Detox probably would have been in the bottom two if it had not been for the fact that Roxy just completely fell apart. But Roxy going first, it's kind of cruel, but it would be great strategy to have her go first. With her nerves, she would have completely fallen apart. Now I know that's mean. I wouldn't, I'm not saying she should definitely do that, but it would have been a good strategy. But Coco was excellent. Coco killed it. Coco was absolutely hilarious. Now, in a juxtaposition, her alleged enemy, Alyssa, was just downright terrible. It wasn't funny at all. Now, I know all season she's been edited a certain way, kind of like the Fifi O'Hara of the season. She was abrasive, she was rude, condescending. Actually, Fifi was not this rude and condescending and abrasive. Alyssa, that's an insult to Fifi. Alyssa is just bitter. Sounds like a bitter old woman. And I don't know. I just don't like Alyssa. Frog Oz. I just don't like her. She's talented, but I just don't like her. Yeah. As funny and as fun as this episode was, it was also dark and kind of sad. Knowing the fact, this is going to be a difficult segment to do. And I'm probably going to get some hate comments for some of the things I'm about to say. I want to reiterate, though, that Roxy Andrews has been one of my favorites from throughout the season. She's great. She's talented. There's nothing against Roxy. Before I go on, I want to first say that I'd like to express the condolences to Roxy because her drag mother, Erica Andrews, actually passed away, unfortunately, the same week that this episode happened to air. So, it kind of was ironic. The story she told on the runway about her own birth mother that abandoned them at 3. That's kind of sad. It's a weird coincidence that this would happen the same week. Roxy must be absolutely devastated. It would be difficult to watch this episode unfold, knowing what you were going through at the time. If this had been me being filmed, knowing the difficulty I was having with the challenge, how insecure I felt about it, and she's been doing great all season. She's very talented, but the past couple weeks she has not been as good. Like, they are not as invincible, Alaska Talks, as they thought they were in the beginning. And this week, Roxy was just vulnerable and at that terrible, terrible stage where you just have no confidence in yourself. And knowing that and how people were going to judge you, that had to have been weighing on her this week when she was getting ready to watch this episode to relive that moment, knowing that she broke down on the runway. I'm sure in every season, queens always break down when they do the lip sync for their life. It's just that this season, for some reason, they've changed the editing. If you haven't noticed, previous seasons, when a contestant is eliminated, they write their little message in lipstick on the mirror, and you don't see the other contestant's reaction until the next day, when they've changed out of their drag gear, and they've had a night to sleep on it, and they're refreshed, and, the raw emotion of the night is gone. They've changed that this year, and I actually like that part. I like the fact that they've edited it to where the reaction is immediate as soon as they leave the runway. Well, as soon as they leave, they get to the back to the workroom. I like that part because the emotions are raw and they're still there. And you get to see the reaction as it happens. But the editing where the breakdowns on the runway are being shown, I don't like that part. I would prefer, if they do have a breakdown, that it's reserved for the workroom, where they have their mandatory bonding session, oh, we're all sisters, I love you. I would prefer to see that in the workroom, maybe a little snippet during the episode, that's it. Leave the rest of that, if you have to have it, if it means something to the story, put that on Untucked. Because in previous seasons, I'm sure that's what's been happening, because everyone breaks down. We just don't see all of that. We see them as they're, composed and ready for the verdict to come in. The drama that has been started on that runway, Monica Beverly Hills coming out as a transgendered woman, it was a poignant story. I get it, my heart goes out to her. And I really felt the real emotion there. And she ended up, surviving for another week. RuPaul, as cold and hard as some people think RuPaul is, RuPaul has a heart. And some people in the past have learned that they can, prey upon that. And I have a feeling that that's what's happening this season. I'm not saying Roxy did this. I'm just saying, I'm thinking queens are seeing an opportunity when they are up for elimination, lip syncing for their life. If they shed a few tears, tell their tragic story, because everyone has a tragic story. We all could break down. When we're vulnerable, we all have sad stories to tell. We could all use that. We could all tell that story. And it's a sad story. It's tragic. It's horrible. And by all means, tell it when you need to tell it. Just don't do it on the runway. Or don't let us see it on the runway, because it kind of seems shallow and fake. Even though I know that's not the case. But I'm thinking in the future, some drag queens that are auditioning for the show are going to think, hey, if I just shed a few tears, I'm safe. If I have to lip sync for my life. Because you had Monica Beverly Hills breakdown. Then you had Coco Montrese breakdown about the Crown Gate. And Coco got saved. Then you had Roxy breakdown. And the story was so sad, and RuPaul was like, we're your drag family. You get to choose your family when you're gay. It can be a good thing. Especially in the drag community where you got drag mothers and drag sisters, and, again, it harkens back to Eric Andrews. There's no way RuPaul could have sent anyone home. Now, maybe it was a plot all along. Maybe it was a script, that it was a non-elimination leg, like on Amazing Race or something. Maybe they had that planned all along. Maybe with or without the sad story, maybe they would have been saved. And they both did a great lip sync, so maybe they both would have been saved regardless. But I think including that story was not integral to the plot. It kind of seemed awkward. Again, there's a lot of things I don't think need to be in the public eye. Don't exploit it for ratings. Don't exploit it for profit. Don't take someone's story and exploit it. Just plain and simple. Don't televise it. Now, Roxy she's an admitted attention getter. So, maybe this was okayed by her, I'm sure, because they wouldn't have aired it otherwise. Because it is such a personal story. But I mean, I agree with a lot of my Facebook friends, because I posted a status about this after having seen the episode and having about 24 hours to, think about it. I agree with my Facebook friends that say that, we all hate it when American Idol does this, when The Voice does this, X Factor. And it's not just talent shows like that. I mean, Roxy Andrews has talent, so obviously she would be safe there. She would have been safe tonight. I think, Alyssa Edwards would have gone home, regardless of how good they were. If it was not planned to be a non-elimination leg, I think Alyssa Edwards would have gone home. But naturally, I think they kind of have to keep Alyssa Edwards in, because eventually, I predict, there might be a Coco versus Alyssa lip sync, and I'm hoping Coco wins. But I mean, overall, long story short, I don't like it when reality TV stars tell a sad story to push them further along in the competition. And a lot of times it's not their fault. Like, they don't want their story being used like that. But the producers do, because it makes a great show. And I've seen it, on American Idol, X Factor. If you're missing a limb, if you're missing a kidney, if you lost your family in a tragic fire, if you survived cancer, whatever the sad story is, it's going to get the sympathy of the fans, especially in a voting show like American Idol and the X Factor, and they'll push you through. They'll just keep pushing you through. You can sound like a raped squirrel, and they will still push you through. But, because you've got a sad story, and it makes people feel for you. And, I mean, I've seen it on other shows like Big Brother, too. Now, on Big Brother, it's kind of different, because you're living in a house 24/7, you're competing for a prize. If you tell the story, it's mostly to get the other contestants in the house to like you, to feel for you. But there was one year, a girl on Big Brother, she had actually been raped and tortured by the BTK serial killer. Bind, torture, kill. And how weird that a siren is playing right now at this point in the video outside. Alright, but she had been attacked. And she told the story. And it was very sad. The other house guests felt horrible about the story. But it kind of pushed her through further in the game than I think she needed to go. She ended up getting expelled from the house because she had a mental breakdown. And that's kind of something you want to know about before you put people in a house like that. But that's an entirely different story. That would be a Big Brother review, not a RuPaul's Drag Race review. So, I mean, I think I've told my story, and bring on the hate comments.